Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm Tucker, joined by my Japanese-shirted co-host, Abram Bunner, and today we're going to be talking about the PS5's 2021 and how it's not really clicking with us. Not much to do, and it's pretty disappointing. So, if you want to talk to us about that, if you want to argue with us about the fact that the PS5 is kind of an underwhelming purchase this year, maybe we'll get into, join our Discord, link in the description. You're down there, you're rooting and hunting, you can click that subscribe button, you can like it, you can click the bell. That's a crazy thing you can do. But Abram, you've got a PS5.
I do have a
I
PS5.
don't.
Right.
I mooch off of my roommate.
Yeah.
You're the one, I think, that this is hitting the hardest. PS5
Yeah.
doesn't have a lot of 2021 games.
Yeah. So I bought a PS5. I think I spent like $600. Because I had to get one of those awful bundles that had like other shit in it. So it was all I paid retail price for everything, but I had to fucking buy a second DualSense and the camera and the charging stand and all this shit, right?
Okay.
So I invested big time in my PS5 because I believed in Sony.
Yeah.
I believed in their messaging. I bought into the PS5.
Moving on generations.
This
is the next step. Yeah.
I bought a PS5 predicated on the information that Sony themselves talked to me about. Plenty of exclusives. This is the next generation PlayStation system. Must have upgrade. We believe in generations. They were saying all kinds of things that I found very attractive. I've been a PlayStation fan since PlayStation 2. So I was very excited. I bought my machine. I'm still impressed by aspects of it. I think the DualSense is phenomenal. I have played a couple games that I think are really exceptional. Astro's Playroom. I think that Miles Morales is great. I think that Returnal didn't quite click with me, but it's probably one of the most interesting AAA games I've played in a long time. But on the whole, Tucker, I'm really underwhelmed by the system, and frankly, I regret buying it on launch.
Yeah. And I am very happy that I had a roommate who was willing to shell out the money, willingly so. I mean, I didn't push him to do it. He wanted to do this, and I'm like, well, there's no reason to have two of these towering behemoths in our house. And he bought it, and I'm very lucky to have that because I think I would be even more disappointed because since the PS5 has come out and we have two guys here with games on it that are actively playing video games, we don't use it very often. It was for Miles when I came out and Astro's Playroom. That was great. Both those fun experiences.
By the way, quick interjection. I played Miles first on PS4 because my PS5 didn't arrive in the mail for a couple days, and it played great there too.
Yeah. Both of those games had a great time with. I think we honestly took a gap few months until Resident Evil Village came out, which was the next current gen game that I bought on there, also not next gen exclusive. And that's a long time. I didn't get Returnal because it seemed a little bit overpriced for what it was, in my opinion. And I have since played a little bit of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which he didn't talk about. He played a little bit about. That's a whole separate thing. But the fact is that for this hugely expensive console that admittedly I didn't pay any money for, it's the new hot thing, but I've been using my PS4 way more still.
Yeah, and so my issue is not necessarily with what we've gotten already. And that's not really why I've been disappointed. It's par for the course that your console's going to get off to a slow start.
Sure.
So I'm not like, God damn it, why don't I already have Horizon? Why don't I already have God of War? Why don't I already have whatever? Mm-hmm. What I'm way more frustrated by and why I wish I hadn't bought the machine is because Sony has completely changed their tune on what they said they were going to do. And you got to think about it this way. The most important thing to me right now is exclusive content. Yeah. And the PS5 is not providing me with that. And to the contrary, Sony is walking back exclusive content we thought we had. Mm-hmm. Gran Turismo 7 was announced purely as a PS5 game. It was retroactively announced for PS4.
Yeah.
God of War was...
Not that you were going to play that.
But it's emblematic of the larger thing. Sure. God of War Ragnarok was announced very cleverly at that PS5 reveal event with no platforms.
Sure.
Under the assumption, of course, it's a PS5 exclusive, because at that point we also thought that Miles was PS5 exclusive, Sackboy, all these things. Since been said, Ragnarok is cross-generation. We keep learning that, well, no, maybe Sony, you don't believe in generations. Mm-hmm. Maybe that was just marketing nonsense to sell more PlayStation 5s in a commensurate time span than PlayStation 4s.
Yeah.
There's no reason, in my opinion, that if you want, from Sony's perspective, to make your new machine look valuable, to make its hardware innovations look important and fresh, to not give it exclusive software.
Sure.
I haven't played Demon Souls. I will say that I'm not a Souls guy, but we've got Astro, Destruction All Stars, and Ratchet and Returnal.
Mm-hmm.
And we know nothing after that.
Yeah.
We know the only other two first party or three first party games being Horizon, God of War, and Gran Turismo. They're all cross-gen and they have no release dates.
Yeah.
And Horizon is targeting holiday, but it's probably gonna slip.
Considering they haven't announced the release date yet, and we've gotten next to no marketing for it.
Yep. So it just feels as though the tenor of the ecosystem shifted once we'd already bought the console.
Yeah.
And that's really disappointing.
For me, still actively playing on my PS4, it's sitting right on our TV right there, right next to the PS5. I'm fine with the games being cross-generation. I honestly wish that at least half of them weren't, to justify the power and the purchase of a PS5, having that giant thing next to the TV and spending so much money on it. You want things that are not only designed for that hardware, but make it worth that purchase. I've got this console. I want to play games that can only be had, experiences only be had on this console. That's disappointing, but for me, the biggest disappointment isn't the games that aren't coming to PS4, but is that we don't even have new titles coming to both for the rest of this year. Sony has announced dick diddles for the rest of the year. A half a Ghost of Tsushima game and more content for Death Stranding. That seems to be what we have.
And that's something to note, because what we have remaining is the Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, the Death Stranding Director's Cut, and Deathloop.
Yeah.
Now, Deathloop, I'm incredibly excited for.
Deathloop is fantastic.
I think the game looks fucking awesome, but it's coming to PC.
Is that coming to PS4?
No.
Okay. That's good.
It's better, but it's still not. The game is not designed for that hardware inherently. And then the other two are director's cuts of very recent games.
Yeah.
I mean, Ghost of Tsushima is not even a year old yet.
Yeah, a 2020 and a 2019 game.
Yeah, and I'm excited for both, actually. I think that it looks like they're making substantive changes or additions to them, and I think that the pricing structure is pretty fair in terms of upgrading what you have.
It's a little bit confusing. Really confusing.
It's confusing, but I'm glad that they have the options at least. So then it's like, if you want to play the Ghost expansion, $70 more. I think that is
very
good.
True.
But again, that's more of what we've played, and it's not even in a sense of, oh, this is an iterative sequel like a Ratchet and Clank. It's this is literally a little bit more on top of games you've already played, and the games just came out, and the games are playable through backwards compatibility already.
That's the biggest thing.
So it just doesn't feel like that's making a substantive contribution to the library. And my problem is not third-party games cross-releasing. I think the incentive is there for third parties to put the content everywhere.
Yep.
If you can make a Village run well on PS4, which I think they did, I put it on PS5, go for it. But that's not Sony's job. Sony's job is to show us why their hardware is important. When they're not doing that, the first party's job is to either sail the ship or go down with it, and not to be releasing all of this cross-generation software that really doesn't strike at the heart of what the machine can do.
Yeah.
That's why I think Returnal is probably the most impressive game on the system.
Sure.
And will probably remain that for a while.
Yeah, especially considering the next thing that could even take advantage of the hardware is Horizon, if they have substantive features that are available on the PS5 version that aren't, because this game has been in development a while. It's their next big thing. It's possible that it does have the features of the DualSense that make it worth playing on PS5, but also that has no release date, and that's really worrisome.
I think Horizon is a little bit of a different case, because reporting from people in the know have said that this game was in development for PS4 first.
Sure.
So this was a case of them bringing a game forward, which I totally get. I think that's different from a cross release in some respects. If it was already developed for PS4 hardware, I get that. But it's really weird to retroactively announce exclusivity, or very clearly position a game to make it look like an exclusive in the case of God of War.
Yeah.
And then change that. Because why should I care about your SSD? Why should I care about the DualSense, which are both incredibly impressive, if you're not releasing games that really illustrate them?
Yeah.
And that's my problem. And I don't even feel like we have a roadmap of content that's going to do that.
Yeah, and I think I have changed my tune on PS5 a number of times since it was revealed last year. One of our first videos on our channel, we talked about that reveal showcase where they did announce Ratchet and Clank and Horizon and Spider-Man and Astro, and it was a great showcase.
Wild showcase.
And we said it sucked. I don't know what was wrong with us. Well, I don't know what we're smoking. I want to go back in time and grab some of that. And I was excited because it seemed like, wow, this is a great list of games to really be excited for on the PS5, which is the next gen console. Things have changed about each of them. They are available on PS4, not taking advantage of the hardware. It's still now on release dates. A lot of them came out near launch, meaning that there's just a gap here that is really strange, especially considering Nintendo and Microsoft both have pretty stacked lineups for the rest of the year, and Sony just seems to be lagging behind.
I think the exclusives point is the greatest issue, but it's not the only one, and I think that's what's disappointing to me most. Sony's making a lot of really weird decisions. The entire flip-flop on the PSN store did not communicate any confidence. The announcements of these studios like Haven with zero information, the announcements of teams like that one that I don't even know the name of, and I don't even have a game to attach to them, but they said, we can't even tell you what genre our game is.
That's so weird.
It's like Firebrand Studios or something, I forget what it is. But these are just weird moves.
Japan Studio, Rip Japan Studio.
Japan Studio's been basically shuttered and rebuilt around Team Sobi, which is a great team, but that they were a cog in the greater Japan Studio machine. Mm-hmm. The store is terrible for searchability. There are fundamental issues with the UI. Trophy hunters are not happy at all with how the trophy's set up. There are really persistent hardware issues across the board that seem really unrelated. Some people can't launch Returnal. Some people are having awful issues with Ratchet and Clank. Some people's machine will crash in rest mode in PS4 games.
It's a shit show. DualSense drift 3 weeks after we got the console.
Yeah, it's so scattered, and I find it difficult to point to many facets of the PlayStation experience right now that feel dominant.
Yeah.
Sure, sales numbers, but I don't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. I'm not a Sony shareholder. Mm-hmm. The experience I'm getting from my Series S and my Switch are a lot stronger than what I'm getting from my PS5. Yeah. And I just think that is a shame considering how excellent the PS4 was.
Yeah. We decided to push this recording back very slightly because there was a state of play today. Yeah. And we intended to record a reaction to it. We did, but it was very underwhelming, and I think it is just emblematic of our issues here. Is they had a chance to wait 3-4 weeks after E3, come out with their own state of play, fill out the rest of their calendar year, get us excited for 2022. Yeah. And instead they showed off a handful of indie games and more Deathloop, which had already been showed off. Yeah. And that's really strange. It's really worrisome. I want to be excited for my PS5, but when Deathloop is essentially the only thing I'm looking to grab that means anything for the console, that's pretty messed up.
Yeah, and it's kind of telling that that's made by a team that Microsoft owns.
Yeah. Oops.
Everybody is making humongous moves other than Sony. Mm-hmm. Xbox got MLB The Show 21 as a Game Pass exclusive, Game Pass day-and-date release. Yeah. What the fuck is going on? Right? It's just it's a Sony that is really riding on brand recognition. Yeah. And I think that the PS5 looks really boutique because it's super fucking hard to get one, and Sony has a ton of cachet from last generation. But ultimately, I'm not sure that this tenor and this momentum is going to stay the same when these things are easy to find and there are no games coming out.
Yeah.
Because Sony's teams take a long time to make games. Mm-hmm. You're not getting a Naughty Dog game for a while.
Of course not.
Unless you're getting that Factions multiplayer spinoff that's rumored.
Yeah.
You're not getting the next Naughty Dog game for a while. Sucker Punch is going to take a long time. Sony Santa Monica is in the midst of taking a long time. Insomniac has released their games, mm-hmm. right?
A lot of games.
We're starting to run out of teams to talk about here from the top tier. Guerrilla hasn't even released their game that was supposed to be a PS4 iterative sequel, and now
it is definitely really weird. The one thing I would say is by the time that these consoles are readily available, there will be games coming out. Yeah. I would say the earliest I can see them being more readily available is summer of next year, maybe a little later than that. And by that point, there's no fucking way we don't know the games that are going to be taking advantage of that hardware. Games will have released in the first half of next year, at least. And we have things on the horizon that will, I think, also the weird cycle here being that will push the consoles to be sold more, and it'll go back to being harder to find. So it's a loop, a little death loop, if you will. But we're in a place where we're just a little sad. We're a little disappointed, quite a bit, actually.
Yeah. Even things like smart delivery and Xbox are just not here. Do you understand how complex it is unnecessarily to make sure you're downloading the PS5 version of a cross-generation title? Do you understand how?
I've never done that before.
The Xbox, because I have one. I have a Series S. I love it. I use it way more than my PS5. It knows that it's a Series S, and it knows to download the best version of the game for it. The PS5 is like, fuck, I don't know. You figure it out. It's like me delegating tasks in my personal life.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole point of a console is supposed to be about a friendly ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a very friendly ecosystem.
No.
So it's a lot of negativity, but frankly, I don't see a lot of silver linings right now. Like I said, I think the DualSense is an incredible piece of technology. I think Returnal is a really interesting game. I'm actually pretty excited for PSVR 2.
Sure.
They're saying a lot of things that seem like pretty substantive upgrades over the first PSVR, so that could be really interesting. And like you said, I think we will get those games, we'll get those announcements. But if it's hitting its stride in the fall of 2022, and we went this weird period of Sony going back on things they've said and not releasing content and having a flimsy ecosystem for 2 years. Well, I really hope Microsoft kicks them down a couple pegs and puts them on their back foot so they actually have to fight.
That'll be the most exciting thing to see, is how this generation plays out. Sony obviously ahead now because they're riding the coattails with PS4, but they're riding those coattails pretty damn hard, and they had no reason to really come out swinging because they were overly confident. Same thing happened with PS3, and that ended up with the PS4. So we're the cycle continues. History repeats itself.
Loop, I believe, as you said.
But by the end of the generation, we'll have seen what happens.
That's a really astute point.
Thank you. I'm really thinking ahead on things. I've got a 6-head decision there.
By the time the console is done, we'll know what games it had.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you want to share your thoughts, share them in the Discord. There's a lot of people in our Discord that are very pro PS5, so you're not gonna be alone. Come talk shit at us. Come
argue with us.
Also dislike the video. It gives us engagement.
It's true.
I don't give a fuck.
See you guys in another video.